Bear with me while I try to set up my coding stream thing. As you can see, it ain't working yet. So we'll try to fix it until it does work better. Hey, that's going to do it. There we go. That wasn't so hard. Woot. Hi. So this is going to be kind of interesting. Hey, Jazz. I might want to go and get myself a cup of coffee. And I have, as usual, got a whole bunch of things to do. But you can hang out and do them with me. And maybe I will go and get my cup of coffee, or maybe I need to be focusing on other things. This is a little bit like yesterday when I was scrambling to do an audio thing, which was tough. Like, that did not go well, but building up to today's stream, what I was doing was working with the MIDI setup in hopes that the next time I sit down and try to arrange something, my hope is that I'll be able to actually play MIDI tracks and compose things a little bit more easily than I had, because I was having such a hard time and I couldn't make anything work. And let's see now. Always first on it, elbow cough. Yep, fair enough. Well, you and Bro, he's pretty good about these things too. Now let me see if I can't position these various things in where they belong. I've got the stuff to show you, which will require me turning on, changing the lights. Because that's the rest of the story, the rest of what I'm doing, or have been doing. Let's see, here's the mouse. Very good. So that'll hold me for the time being. Yeah. Remember how I was working with these cards? Hang on a second. Remember how I was working with these cards? And the idea was I was going to invent arrangements based on that. And then my technique of doing that was not good and did not really work very well. Well, I've come up with something else to do with them. Basically, deal out 7 of these guys and piece them into some kind of arrangement look and shape with the basic rules that I've got down there, and get something like this. The new concept is, rather than follow an elaborate game-like thing, draw a picture of what the cards would have you do. And then write down whatever it is else that is in there on the face of the cards. And this is including things like when it does a sudden abrupt transition to something kind of opposite. You've got the double lines of big change there, and you draw a gap between the things. And that's happening twice over here. If you have the opposite approach where it draws a line in the other direction, meaning that the things have commonality, you do a blend. And here is another case of the double lines of big striking difference between these two things. And it turns out that if you have the right card arrangement, you can compose a song in a picture. And it gives you sort of the basics of what you'd be trying to do with it. And I think I can do these not on stream and have stuff to draw from. There you go. And have stuff to draw from, where maybe next time I'll have a slightly easier way of coping with that. But that's not what I'm doing today. Because, and I might want to, Jess, do you know my SoundCloud? Do you know the SoundCloud that I have? Oh, and I see something which is getting in my way of being able to read chat. So how about I move this? This be another Chris Science project is the chord slide rule that I made for myself. I'm hoping I can put it into use when I do the MIDI thing. And I'm kind of eager to get after that. Oh, I see. Hang on a second. I'm hoping to use the chord slide rule to do my composition using MIDI and like making up proper songs out of pieces of arrangement and so on. I'm going to work on trying to get that going. I'm kind of enthusiastic about that, but the SoundCloud has something different on it. If you go and look at my SoundCloud, you'll see 3 tracks. And those 3 tracks are a flax, and they're the final track that I came up with yesterday, run through 3 times. Once with every variable in there, and the buses being long double, and dithering to the long double, to the output bus. Second one, all of the tracks are double precision. And third, I made all of the variables and the bus 32-bit float. The question is, can you hear the difference between these things? Because that's kind of the big question there is, can you, hang on, I'm grabbing the wrong mice and fooling around with this sort of thing. So I have made an example where you can download the 2496 versions of all of those things. They're dithered to 24-bit. And the question is, can you hear the difference between long double bus, a double bus, and a float bus? And what I found was that you could not hear the difference between long double and double in any significant way. Although I wonder whether maybe there's just a sort of hint in there, but it's like, point being, the double didn't sound bad or significantly different from the long double. It was basically the same experience. Float, not so much. On the floating point bus, what you got was a strange kind of like distillation of the sounds, where everything was a little bit more plain and easy to hear, but it was also flatter. And again, everything about this was considerably beyond like 16-bit truncation. It's just all of the working variables inside everything are straight up 32-bit float, including the buses. And what I feel was happening is that the cumulative effect of all the truncation of the louder parts of the signal add up to where you get that effect. It's a sort of like highlighting. It sounded like all the sounds are kind of in quotations. They're kind of, I'm not really sure how to describe it other than I heard a difference. I wonder whether it's a significant enough difference that it's blind testable. If you wanted to try that, use those files and you should be able to. Because they're as identical as I could make them. All you have to do is like randomize them and put them in an ABX tester. And if you can tell the difference between, say, long double and float, you are hearing the result of continued protracted 25th bit truncation on all the working variables. And if you can't ABX them, then that's more a fugitive kind of thing, akin to if there's a difference between long double and double. Now I've got a bunch of stuff to go forwards with here, but I'm not actually programming another plugin, although technically I could. We've got something else in mind today. And what I have in mind is starting the process of updating all of the plugins. And so in order to start doing that, I have to get busy with the M1 laptop, because that's where I was running some of these find and replaces and things. And yeah, every time I surround myself with like all the computers and mice in the world. Yeah, well, I mean, if you were hearing that off of SoundCloud, that's compressed. You're not supposed to hear this. If you did download them, there's that. But if you can hear any difference of it off the SoundCloud page, just hitting play, that is sonic damage that is extremely persistent. Because if it is, you know, you're not supposed to be able to hear differences like that over lossy compression. If you can, then that's something that's gone really terribly wrong. But listening to the full-on audio files, that's when you might start to pick up on some kind of difference, although it's not going to be obvious in any circumstances. It's going to be kind of fugitive regardless. So let me see. I've got stuff to do here. The last couple of days have not really been days of putting on an amazing show, but here's the thought is, and I can't stream this laptop. I'm looking to get a laptop which I can plug into the system, but this one is not set up to do that. So I basically just have to work on this, and I will hide that, and I'll just see what I can do here, and then I will get ready to do it on the other computer. It's a thing. It's a whole thing. Firstly, what I'm going to do is go to the global Airwindows plugins folder. And we're going to do a global search and replace. Well, actually, wait. First thing I'm going to do is have a look at whether... No, I could do this at any time. I have a multi-file search. Yeah, well, I mean, those files are like as identical as I can make them. So if the SoundCloud waveforms look different, that's very interesting, and something's going on there. If you listen to them, you'll find that they're like the same, and they're just runs of different. They're all starting out as 24-bit. They're all 2496, and they're FLACs, and there should be no actual distinction between the different kinds. And so if it's looking different or acting different in any way, that's quite interesting. I wasn't noticing that myself, but I mean, let me know. First order of business is I am doing, let's see, options, search nested folders, and we're going to go through and change every instance of begin 64-bit stereo floating point dither into xbon frax double input sample L and so on, to the version where the code in there is commented out, because if we're running on a double bus, we don't have to run the floating point dither to double because it already is. It's just burning cycles for nothing in that case. And we've already saved a version of the entire code base before we got to this point, so replace all. And it apparently did not find that. That's weird. So now it's time for me to try to figure out, why did you not find this? This was supposed to be here. That is very weird. Desktop Airwindows does contain these files. I will open it up and start investigating some of this stuff. For instance, MacVST ought to have it. I'll go to any random file. I'll open it up in Xcode. This is not the Xcode that you could see on this screen because I'm on the other laptop now. And it's going to give me trouble because I hope it doesn't just screw it up, because I just did something, and if it's saving this, it might break it for this, so that's unfortunate. How about I just quit the hell out of Xcode right away and hope that it didn't touch it. It doesn't say date modified any different, so hopefully that's the same, and I'll open it in a text editor instead. There's my stereo process replacing, and that's already changed. It looks kind of like I've already run this. That's interesting. I don't think I could have actually gone through and... Oh, look at single-ended triode. Let's have a look. Single-ended triode proc. Quick look will suffice. Oh, interesting. I have another version of these. That's weird. Well, let's open that in Baby Edit. And the trick you're doing is with the gain of wave shaper, gain in cubic, and gain in, and manipulating the... Okay, so I'm actually not following what you're saying, but that sounds as if that's going to be an interesting thing to fool with. I have identified something that could be a problem with what I'm doing, so I have another find and replace to attempt. Multi-file search. And... oh, that's screwed up. That's not good. I've got something to replace, that's for damn sure. So where was I? Recently opened files. Single-ended triode. There we go. I've got work to do on these things. Bear with me. Let me see how many of these need to get replaced. That should do it. If I replace that with this, place all. It says not found. That's interesting. That makes no sense at all. How about we open something else? How about we open what is it? Stereo Chorus Proc. I believe is actually one of the recent ones, so that would have the update. And go with the 32-bit stereo floating point dither. Go with this, and then go back to this. Stereo 32-bit dither made small and tidy. We should try to find that anywhere it exists. And now we will try to do that. Recent folders, desktop Airwindows, save to disk. It's still claiming it's not finding anything. That seems not good. So I already started with something. Hey, hi Pabli. How's it going? Medium. I'm trying to do something useful, but I'm running into a lot of obstacles today. Kind of just like yesterday. Yesterday was full of lots of obstacles. This is also becoming full of lots of obstacles. And I'm not happy about that, but I'm going to see what I can do about it. Source. And right now, what I'm doing doesn't let you watch anything that I'm doing, unfortunately. There's nothing I can do about that. Yeah, so. Hello, Smooth. Was using the 64-bit floating point dither, but it was not actually updating it correctly. That's weird. Are we running into a problem where it can't nest the files enough? Is that it? We'll go to multi-file search again. I'm going to save this search as fix old 32-bit FP dither. I had a previous one, but I don't think I can actually go back in this. No, wait. No, looks like I can. It's a grep search, and maybe that's the problem. Could that be it? Let us save that as fix old 64-bit FP dither. And then while we're at it, we're trying to do it in the entire plugins folder. If I tell it to be not a grep search, does that give me a result? Oh, it totally does. Okay, so I shouldn't be doing it as a grep search. It's not finding a thing. Does it make sense to compute const variables using long double, using sample processing info? I'm not sure that that does. I'm not sure that makes any sense. If you're using a const, if you're doing sample processing in float, then you probably, all of the variables should be float. Otherwise, they will just be promoted to whatever the largest variable is. We hope, because I ran into an interesting thing testing too, I'll tell you. Firstly, let me start going through these and doing the thing I was trying to do, because having grep engaged here was screwing everything up. Now let's replace all of the 32-bit dithers. It's finding the same stuff, it's replacing them. Let's do the making all of the 64-bit dithers not. That should be a much larger number of files. 215, it's a goodly number. And then lastly, let's go and find some of this stuff that was causing me a problem, and that'd be in the original folder. And I think single-ended triode had that. and I'll look in the source and see in single-ended triode pros. Open that with BB-edit. We've got the 32-bit floating point dither. That's going to cause problems elsewhere. But we could see whether I can... Yeah, I know, it's not all the plugins, right? It's missing some of them. I'm basically going to see whether I'm screwing up my entire code base. I do have it backed up somewhere. Because if I can do all this stuff here, I can use GitHub to just update it everywhere, and then bring it up on the older computer, which is this one where you can see I'm moving the mouse pointer, and then I can start grinding through. I think I'm going to give this about an hour and a half and see just how far I get. And this is the best I can offer you today, but I'll be doing more coding streams on Sunday and Monday. But yeah, let me see. Where was I? Stereo course, that is a more recent one. So if I open this in BB-edit, I should be able to see, oh, this is going to cause a lot of headaches for me, guys, I must say. But it'll be worth it, but this is going to be a lot of work, me doing this updating. But I can tell you why I'm doing it. Here's my card where I tested stuff out. When I did the long double to double conversion, on the Intel computer, the efficiency of the CPU usage of the bespoke project I was using with the VSTs went from 67% to 32%. I got almost a doubling in efficiency. When I tried floats, it just went to 30%. I got about 2% more efficiency. I don't consider that enough compared to what you lose. Although if you are coding floats, like the Surge Synthesizer folks do, you can code things like filters in such a way that they do heavy parallelization in the CPU, and in that way you can get more happening. Although I still think that they would be good to use like double precision buffers or for some of their stuff, and just not constantly use float for everything. And thing is, when I did the same thing on the M1, this laptop that I'm currently on, they were all the same. I swapped out the plugins and they all acted the same. Long double acted the same as double, acted the same as float. And I don't know why this is. It seems kind of weird. Either the M1 processor is designed so that it has the same amount of efficiency no matter what kind of word you're using, or it's not taking any advantage of optimizations for doing this kind of thing, or something else is wrong. But I do know that what I can do is go through and start updating all of this stuff. And here's one thing that I could update. I have a big old pile of code here. And I'll go to that multi-file search window and paste that in. And then I got the relatively tiny pile of code, as in 2 lines. To replace it all with, and I believe that's going to be consistent across everything. So let's that found 808 occurrences. I think that means Oh yeah, no, it means that I replaced it in the 64 and 32-bit bus stuff. And that's about 400 occurrences throughout. So that's a lot, and that also means I need to look into the H files of both of these things. The single-ended and the stereo chorus, which is the recent, and the single-ended was the one where it's an older version of this stuff. So let's start by looking into the stereo chorus. And I got uint32t, FPDL, and FPDR. Now, what was in the single-ended triode one that was different? Because that needs to be updated to what the current one is. In fact, I also have to update the reset feature in there too. We'll open that up in BB Edit, look in the same place, and I have absolutely got a different thing there. So let us fix that. And again, we'll do a replace all. And that's like 432 places. Oh, I forgot to do the title. Hang on, folks. I will do it. Give me a second. I've got so many things on my mind right now. What's adding one more? Big deal. Dashboard restream. And let's see, the keyboard that I'm using for that is way over here. Thanks for reminding me. I will never remember that kind of thing. Hang on. N. Code maintenance is what I'm going to call that. And there. Okay, how's that? I fixed it. I should have fixed it. Hopefully it fixed it. Let's get back to everything that I have to do in here. I've just replaced 432 occurrences of FPN shape L with the other thing, int32t FPDL. Now I need to do the same thing with the, and I bet that's in the audio units as well, but I'll find out. If everything breaks, then that will show me, and I'll find out, and I'll be able to go and start doing this over again. I think it is the CPP file that I'm looking for here. Edit. Alrighty, so rather than FPN shape L and FPN shape R being 0, we got to do the other version that is more modern. And that's also going to be in a CPP file, but I might be finding it in the AUs as well. If it's large numbers of those, then maybe that is. And it'll be FPDL equals 1, and then a random using thing meant to genuinely make them new random numbers. And this should do the initialize. And we'll replace all. Oh yeah, that got 456 occurrences of that. Technically, they should all match. Oh, none of this is actually grep. This is purely find and replace in BB Edit. I had to shut off grep because when I had grep enabled, it wasn't working. The code was telling grep something, that it doesn't understand. So it found nothing. But I have now kind of found everything. And the only remaining question is, did we just kill everything too, or will it actually work? Let's glance at some of these, do a little spot check. For that matter, I know that it was I know one of the things that was causing a problem. So if I go and search for that, date modified, yeah, I'm going to search for it by name. And I know it started with S, I think. Did it start with S? What the? Single-ended triode. That's the puppy. So if I open these with BBEdit, I can see whether they've been updated. That has not been updated. That's going to need to be updated here too. So back into BBEdit, back into search, find, and replace. Let's go and look up stereo chorus, because that's very recent. And that H file. Ooh. So the stereo stuff might be updating. I think that the mono stuff is not. So let's look at something that's not stereo, but is recent. How about tube? Tube is recent. Tube H, BBEdit. Yep, that's what I'm going to need to do. So back into the multi-file search. It's covering up my windows pretty good. Copy that, paste that, and the result so we're going to need to replace all of these too. You know, if I spend an hour and a half or 2 hours just only doing this, then ask me lots of questions because you have my full attention. You can even see my face because we can't do any actual work until I finish doing this. Replace all. That got me 158 replacements. So there's 158 files where they will break horribly if I don't do all this find and replace stuff correctly. But on the bright side, doing this means that I will boost the efficiency of all of the 158 legacy plugins. Will get a lot more efficient, especially on Linux, because they were using rand calls and don't have to do that anymore. So that's a good thing. That, I would say, was a downright good thing. And we're going to be enthusiastic about it and go forth doing it. Like the amounts of performance boost I might be able to get out of all of this just might be mind-boggling. People might be able to, oh my God, now I can run like 12 mixes where I used to be not even able to run one. And it would be because of things like that. Because of calling rand on Linux hosts, or rand in general because it's not very efficient, all that kind of stuff. So, now we open up the tube CPP, this being a modern one, and then go back into what I think was single-ended triode was my example for the old school version. Let's have a look at the CPP file for that one, and it should contain all of the sort of old school ways of doing this, all of which need to be updated. Yeah, see, the 32-bit tether is doing that, and then the denormalization is basically doing a less efficient version of the technique that I was using, which might make a slightly better audio. We shall see. And I can recognize some things I see in here, like it's saying noise source. So if I find that word anywhere, it means I still have stuff to fix. For now, we're going to open up these windows and firstly go in and do the 32-bit floating point dither for the AUs and update that in the mono form. We've already done the stereo form. So our desired end result is going to be this. And the bit that we're changing is going to be this. And we're going to do a replace all. We got 170 occurrences of that too, so that's a lot of plugins. That's like, I don't know, Chorus Ensemble had it somehow. Earlier versions of Console, Console 5, Crunchy Grooveware, C-Strip, just a bunch of stuff had this old school stuff. So it's worth me doing this. But having done it, we also have to go in and do the reset. So let's see. Back into multi-file search. Same deal. $190 occurrences there. This is really weird. I think that AUs should run more efficiently, DJ Positive. I think you should be able to run AUs more efficiently if they are mono. Because the way I'm doing, I've never found a way of doing VST2s that weren't stereo. It feels like that's just part of Steinberg's concept for it. Whereas Apple was doing an end-to-end concept, meaning that if you are doing mono, you only have to calculate one side. My code doesn't know how not to do that, so the AUs could be more efficient under the grounds. Now remember how I said I was going to find noise source? Let's find noise source. It exists in 228 files, such as byte proc. So I can look in byte and replace that with the correct thing. So let's try doing that. Oh, although interestingly, proc means that is a VST plugin. This is an AU. Let's see whether it's in the way here. We do have byte updated for this. Oh, byte has some interesting thing. Byte's got special concepts for things. It's using a word called result rather than input sample. A lot of this is going to be sort of manual. Let's find all again. All right. So here's the kind of stuff we're up against. Byte proc is using a term called sample A rather than input sample. Oh, go away, spammer. YouTube spammers, man. And its output is, in fact, on the VST, byte is using the output properly. But the input is very different. Deres. Is using an additional thing called target B in there, where it's trying to keep track of something and is not dithering otherwise. It's like target B is the output for the deres. So if you're truncating, if you're deresing and making it low bit, you should be able to run it to literally 0 and not be generating this dither noise. You should make it go silent. Yeah, I would go for modeling a unit as a whole rather than believing that you're going to get the sound out of doing digital models of all the individual components. You want to study what those are doing. Like you figure out, is the combination of all of this getting in the way of slew rate? Is the combination of all of this restricting frequencies in some range, and not in other ranges? If you look at the output, like what I did on Maggoty, is the hard clipping making a sort of little frizz in addition to the clipping? Is it going beyond? Stuff like that will get you there, whereas trying to model the, let's see now. Yeah, so a bunch of this stuff. This denormalization stuff. I already looked at deres. Let's look at atmosphere bus. Atmosphere bus should be using input sample, but it has a comment in it which doesn't fit with the find and replace. And it says for atmosphere, which is pretty strange. What about average? Did I literally update the... No. I'm shooting for whether some of this is similar. Like we've got the floating point dither updated correctly. However, this other stuff, I'm looking to see whether I have similarities in here. Like here's C5 raw bus. Like, do I have a different set of comments? And that's all? So let's see. So tube seems to be using a different, let's use a different. Yeah, there's byte. Byte's not what I'm going to be wanting to deal with. There's a lot here to do. I'll do, maybe this is what I'm going to be doing for the next 3 days. Like, I will see your comments, and you can see me because I can't do work on the regular computer yet because I'm getting all of this together. And let's see what... Dirt probably will give me what I'm looking for. CPP file, open with BBEdit. My toes are kind of cold. It's been freezing out here too. We've got the correct update. We've got an elaborate series of this, and here's what we're going to want. Let's do a quick fix for some of these things. And then we'll go back into searching for noise source and find other huge giant bulks of things that need to be updated. But firstly, let's fix my thresholds. That's not going to count. Where was I? Oh wait, I know what I can do. I can look for recent files in BBEdit. Open recent. Was it 2? Maybe it was. Let's find out. FP dither seems correct. Aha, found it. And then I'll find the original version and replace it with the noise floor designed, hit replace all. Let's just do it. Boop. And we've done 218 upgrades of that. Yeah. No, this is what I'm going to have to do for the next couple of days. We will see where it goes. I'll find out if everything's gone terribly wrong if I start trying to compile things and nothing will work. And then I'll have to solve them kind of one at a time, but sometimes that's the way of it, you know. Now let's see. Where was I at? Byte has sample A. I'm not going to want that. Let's look up dirt and tube in VST form and see what we've got there. Mac VST. I think it's tube proc that I'm going to want. So let's have a look. Yep. There we are. That looks like a boilerplate. And replace it with the new boilerplate. Dirt should have that. Source, dirt proc, CPP. And that's what I will replace it with. And you know what? I have 2 different places to do that, I believe. Yep. So we got a 2 for here. The end result is going to be the same either way. And then I got to do this twice. Firstly, with the 32-bit version, that got 160 plugins. And then this should be the same. There should also be 160 plugins like this. $152. Okay. Oh no, I am going to update the GitHub repo with the stuff that I'm doing on the computer right now, because that's how I get it to the other computer, so that I can start recompiling everything. That's the only way I can get it to the retro laptop, is I'm doing all this stuff here, and then I'll be updating the GitHub. The thing is, I made a backup of the GitHub. I made a backup of the entire repository. It's in a zip file. I'm calling it like the long double era. And so I will be able to roll everything back if I absolutely must. But today, we're not even really worrying about that so much. It's just finding what's up. Up, can't use byte. Byte says sample A. How about, let's see if a quick voice clip. All right, that is not the that's going to require the first version of this. Let's see whether I can make this do what I want. So here's the first one in its normal input sample form. Oh, you know what? We're going to replace all of this. And then let's see what we've got there. And that's going to update 162 of the AUs with something that needed to be fixed. At which point I look for noise source. I don't think byte was a thing, but I think, yep. Dres in the, and let's see if there's two versions of that too. No, it looks about the same. No. Dres has the additional factor. Dres has the target B. It is a special factor that's stopping it from working in byte. Is using the special variable name. I need to find a not byte, not dres. Maybe those are the only ones that still have that. Byte proc, dres proc, yes. 68 files. So what else have we got? How about pures? What formula have we got here? We got purist drive. That is a audio unit. So I believe what's going on here is that I can take this audio unit and I note that this is not updating my long double properly, but I can search for that again at a later date. This is still using the input sample terminology. So something about this was different. But bottom line, that is a mono old school denormalization technique, which is not, I've deleted the variable that it uses. So we're going to replace it with the mono technique here, and another replace all. How many can we get now? We got 2. Awesome. That was impressive. Boy, did that do a lot. Back to finding noise source. I should just do byte. How about doing the one in atmosphere? How about that? Okay, alternate form. We'll take this entire thing, copy that, and see, this is a thing where I pasted in boilerplate, So I should be able to replace it with the current boilerplate, which the program already has the stuff that it needs for the new variables, but I've removed the previous variables and now it's still referencing them. So that will fail immediately unless I replace this with what needs to be there. So let's give that a try. Back to a old search and replace, which is the current version of everything, and then replace that with the old denormalization. Hit replace all. Hey, I got 48 in one go. Mojo benefit? You know, I'm not sure what you mean by mojo benefit. My feel is that I've been improving these processes this entire time, so that literally everything that I'm doing is going to have more mojo and benefit than it had before. That is my take on it. The whole thing is being an upgrade, and I just happened to be going through and upgrading all the old craft that used to be there. Everything that I had that was either like cumbersome and slow or wasn't doing as good of a job, I'm updating basically all of it because I'm having to go through every plugin to do this work. So yeah, and if I hit replace all again, I think I just did this so it doesn't find anything. So we will go back to our search for noise source and search for that again. This time it's only in 18 files: byte, dres, acceleration atmosphere. From tape has something. That's interesting. From tape, byte, dres. Yeah, so it's looking to me like I'd be able to go after this. I want to know what's the deal with from tape that it is a exception. What have we got here? We've got a commented outline. That's interesting. There's nothing else about it anywhere. Or is there? Let's do that again. So we're going to want to do byte, we're going to want to do dres, we're going to want to do acceleration and atmosphere. But apparently only atmosphere bus, and that's weird. Byte, dres, byte proc, dres proc, byte proc, dres proc, byte proc again, dres proc, holy crud. That's because it's all of the Windows and Linux and stuff. Those actually, I generate those files from the Mac VST files, so I don't really need to be updating those, but there's no real harm in it. So why am I getting atmosphere bus? What does this actually need? What's different? Oh, it's because it's my comment in the dres stuff for atmospheres. For atmop shear, we always apply the dither noise. Then if our result is effectively digital back, we'll subtract it again. We want an air hiss. I have a better way of generating that now, which is what I use. So let us take this entire thing, that's where it'll be. Replace all. How many did we get? Both or just one? No, we got both. Back to searching for noise source. We're going to find out what's, let's fix byte. Byte's got something dumb in it. It needs to have a fix. And that is because byte proc I'm going to have to do a little edit here to make this work. But I can. So let's just quickly edit what I have in dirt here to have the correct variables for what I'm going to want to do. If I do that, I'm home free. And there we are. Copy that and cut it. Are the guys at Search helping me learn Juice? No. Not yet. No, they're not. I haven't really been asking, and when I have asked, it hasn't really worked very well that way. So this should be what needs to get replaced. Replace all. That replaced two occurrences in all the different forms of VST, Linux, Windows, Mac, and Signed Mac. Good. Back to searching for a noise source. We're going to start going through all these little details. Now we've got DRes as our outlier. And this one requires an additional parameter. So we're going to do what we did before, is copy and paste the previous thing and add this factor, which is ampersand, ampersand, and then in parentheses, target B equals 0. So it's a special denormalization that is able to go to silence if you need it to. And it's the same for each one. So all it's got to do is paste it into, pasted it at the wrong place, to the if clauses of these guys. Copy that. Go here and use this as the replace. And then grab this and, oh, why are you, there we go. Thank you. And replace all for that as well. And we've replaced the two occurrences in each of the instances. Something else that is bugging me is we are having a rather poor time actually replacing the long doubles. I think I must have done that with grep. So we're going to try that again. What else do we have in here somewhere that is... We're going to try to do everything. Oh, hell yeah. Alrighty, so the performance increase that we're looking for there should be like 16,116 places where the performance on at least Intel processors, and whichever are related to this, will go to about twice as efficient. I would call that a desirable output, and none of this actually calls on long doubles they're always just mine. So I'm going to call that good. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. I think I can close tube proc. Dirt proc. We'll save it. And back to finding noise source. Okay, I've got acceleration, byte, and derez. Yeah, maybe once I finish doing that, I'll call it a day. I need to throw another log in my fire anyway, and this is just one of those funny things. Hopefully you're enjoying the hanging out part of this. The entertaining streaming part is very lacking, and that's just something that's going to happen. I am, however, trying to do some of my maintenance work regarding the music making off stream in hopes that I can jump back into doing that. Maybe I'll do some of that over the weekend. We'll see. I do also have a whole other plugin to do as far as I got to get you folks cabs. So I'm probably going to need to get together like a DI guitar solution that I can use in Bespoke that'll be better for demonstrating that kind of stuff. What I did going into the laptop was not very good because I didn't have a good input impedance for the high impedance input. I can do much better than that. Anyways, acceleration. And let's just open up MacAU Byte again. Actually, no, Byte is the one that I'm working with. What am I thinking? Or no, wait, no. Yeah, Byte is one of the ones I'm working with. So open recent. What was actually working? How about let's go with the AU version of From Tape and assume that that has my correct information. So, FPD, yes. We've got our correct, actually I can look that up from old searches, so that's not that much of a problem. And this does actually use input sample, so there's some other reason that this was not. I apparently have a line that says this file's now been modified by all dev machines using command line get. I don't know why that shows up in just the occasional file, but let's see how far that stretches. And we're going to replace it with the denormalization. And we're going to go to that and then go to this. And does this get all of them or just the one? It only got acceleration. Alrighty then. And not even all of acceleration. Interesting. So let's try that again, shall we? Copy the denormalization stuff. We'll close this. We'll go to where it is doing the correct kind of denormalization, and then we're going to search for that. It's not a get search, and it should at least get one, because I just copied it. Yep, it did. So we're apparently doing them one at a time now. That's fine. We'll get there. Find all the noise sources. Now we are just in byte and derez. What's different between these? This should be able to get both of them. There shouldn't be a difference here. Up, and this is the one where it needs to do sample A. We know what to do about that. cut that so it's no longer different. And that's our replace. And then this is our rather large and cumbersome copy. Always gotta love it when the old code has like words and names and things that are not all right. Got two files. We're getting somewhere. And we'll close that. And we're going to look for noise source and see if we've got anything left. We've got deres. Deres has something that I need to do. So why is deres different? That's because this is the target B version. So what we're going to do is the same as before. Make another copy, copy over the ampersand, ampersand, and then in parentheses target B equals 0. Copy that, stick it into the if clause of the new one. And then cut that because we're not actually using it. Put it into the replace and take this big chunk of ugly, messy code and put that in the find. And we're going to replace all. And having done that, if we search for a noise source, this abandoned variable that is no longer defined anywhere, nope. Not found. So this may have been what I needed to do in order to update this stuff. So what I'm going to do now is the risky and dangerous, but entrancing and amusing process of firing up terminal, not on the one that you're watching, and cd, drag in the folder. Oop. You always do git pull origin master and or main, even if you're going to do a bunch of big changes, because it tells the local version what's up and whether anything is going to need to change. Otherwise, you can get conflicts. There's no changes, and so what I'm going to do now is commit the things that I have done. We don't know whether they'll actually compile yet, but I've done a pretty good try at getting it together. And then once I'm finished with that, I'm going to throw another log on the fire and like go and make lunch or something. Ooh, sound of snow falling off the roof. Git add capital A. That's going to take a while. Hey, Dronf. Git commit -m. Big double / denormalization update is what we're calling that. And that's a lot of stuff. Do I have my build script in here? Meh, I can do that on the other machine. I'll do that when I get on the other machine. Push. That was amazingly fast, considering what had to go. Damn. And now we are temporarily done with the M1. And guess what? We're going to have a look over here. Oh, and one of the things I forgot is I do have to have this laptop sits around being disconnected from all of the world. So I need to turn the Wi-Fi on to be able to do this with it, which I can now do. And hoo boy, does it have a lot to do. And now what I'm going to do is this. Find dot dash name build exec rmr whatever I found. And I guess it didn't have any build folders included. I try not to. I guess that was fine. And that means airport off. That in theory, we can start going through. Here's acceleration. Can we simply build? I think this is the kind that doesn't work first off. I'm not seeing any warnings though. Seems to have worked. See, here's the deal, is acceleration now is using modern everything. It's using the modern floating point dither. It's using the modern denormalization with the sub-analog noise floor that's definitely enough to avoid being in denormalization. And we just built a plugin. Likewise, acceleration 2. Can we build this? Looks kind of like it's building. And our code there is now doing the correct thing for this. Let's have a quick look at this biquad. I think I must have something in here. Yep. So we've got that. We've got the biquads running as double. I could change all the float 64s to double as well, but I'm not sure there's a point doing that. And there we are. AD clip 7. Same deal. Do we have our changes? We got some stuff in here that's a little funky, but there's our FPD. That's what we needed for the denormalization and the dithering. There's the modern version of the denormalization. Here's a bunch of weird code. And here is our modern version of the 32-bit floating point dithering. And even though we did not define input sample in here, we defined it here, but it's still being done as a double precision. So if we build it, this is somewhat less complicated than the signed versions, but this is still a process that I'll basically be going through and just one by one recompiling everything. Then everything gets to have a build folder, and sometimes you can even do stuff like write a script that goes and searches all the build folders and puts the contents in something. That might be worth doing, because it'll be a lot more efficient. ADT. We'll check and see whether it's got everything it needs. Oh, interesting. I've got one more thing to do. ADT contains it too. Let's quit out of there and go back in here. And I'll do this final thing, which I don't know how many plugins that affects, but let's delete all those build folders while we're at it. Airwindows. And that's just deleted the build folders, and so it's deleted the stuff that we just made, but that's fine. It is now the same as when I uploaded it. Hey Esteban, I'm just about finished for the day, but it's been a real funky experience. So now what we're going to do is our multi-file search. And let's find this. How many times have I got that? Ooh, a whole bunch. Okay, see, here's a problem. This is showing up in CPP files. I don't know if this is all, FPD L and R will also be a thing here. This is not initiating the noise properly. Like, this only happens when the plugin instantiates. But my current way of doing it, and this is like 500, well, it's repeated twice, but like a good 275 files are not actually doing this properly. So let's go and amend that. Copy. And we're going to find in this background stuff where we've instantiated that before. Oh, can we? Do I not have it? I suspect I do not have it, so let's go and find it elsewhere. That's the line we want to replace. It's going to be in AUs. And anything new is going to have the correct way of doing this. So let's go find something new. How about Hyperson X? You see, it's not supposed to say FPD equals 17. It is supposed to say this. FPD equals 1. While it's less than 16,386, it's random. That'll almost immediately give you a random. If it's a smaller number, then it'll keep trying until it gets a random. That shouldn't take too long. And that more or less ensures that all of the noises in all of the plugins will be different, even though they are a simple mechanical method of processing that. And we're gonna replace all. And there we go. Not that we're quite finished, because here's the deal. What does ADT in VST form say? I am most suspicious of this. It's one of the top ones. That's going to be in the CPP file, I think. Yeah, it should be. Huh. Okay, so what's going on here? That seems not right. Let's look into this a little further. Is the rest of it updated, which means this wouldn't build because that's FPD, but I think I'm going to need FPD L and R. We instantiate them here. Nope, that's still just the regular one. And this would be what we do with it. Interesting. So here's the thing. In a more recent VST, because doing it this way means not only that you don't have two random variables to use on your stereo plugin, but also they are always going to be related because every random is just the next step along from the previous one. So I feel like this is not the correct answer, and I need to go in and make it be the correct answer. It's not going to be in monitoring. And I'm looking for what the... Hang on, I gotta throw the log on the fire. Everything's going cold. Very cold. That's not okay. Water there. Okay. If that doesn't catch, I'll have to go and do something about it, like pronto. But for now, I need to look up a more recent version that is going to have a more correct, and we might as well get out of this terminal. I need to look up a more recent version so that I can do this properly and see whether I'm using FPD-R and FPD-L. Because if I'm not, I don't get to use truly random numbers in stereo. They're always going to be somewhat related. And I feel almost sure that, here's tube and tube 2. That's a perfectly good way of looking at it. So let's go and find tube. Or just tube H. We're on the H file, right? Yup. So here's the next upgrade. Everything that did not have truly stereo random needs to now have truly stereo random. Unfortunately, this is fairly straightforward. Where was my ADTH? Come on, Come on, come on, come on. There it is. I wonder why that is spaced the way that it is. I guess we'll find out. Now let's replace those. Ooh, looky there. Ooh, hang on a second. Did you see the problem? I just saw a problem. I need to be doing that in the VST folder. I got to go and put it back now, but only in certain folders. Namely, is there a swap thing where it'll put these in inverse? Cut that, paste that there, and then cut that and paste that there. Because now I got to select all of the AUs. Oh, but wait, no, hang on. Brain explodey. So we have a problem. All of the AUs have now been updated to be stereo, even if they're not. But not all the AUs are true stereo. So probably what I should do is yeah, you see the problem there? There's the problem. So what I'm going to need to do is find everything in AU that is in fact stereo. So firstly, let's put this back because the AUs include mono stuff, and as you can see, there's a lot of them. And then we're going to find which ones have FPDL in them at all, and make a subset of just those, maybe write them all down. So if I search for this factor in the signed and regular AUs, ooh, weird, that's strange, something's going on in AutoPan. Why am I doing a rand? Why is BaseKit doing a rand? We got a bunch of stuff up in here doing something unreasonable. Pressure 5 is at least doing the correct thing. "78 files. So here's the thing, we're going to write all of these down and then put the instantiation back to what it was supposed to be. Why does that say that? Oh, because Paul White still has it for some reason, apparently. Fancy that. If we start running into problems, we'll have to debug them when we get there. This is part of the issues of working with a pile of code this big. And that's weird. It didn't actually replace these ones. So we can go through and find the ones that didn't actually get replaced, because those aren't going to be a problem. There's a lot of these. There's a lot of these to go through, guys. You can't see any of this. Probably be joyful that you can't see any of this because it's horrific. Oh, but we've got a duplication of labor there, so we only have to sort this for once. But we might have to do it twice for each one. Well, I need to start writing this stuff down. At least the fire started. I gotta tell you guys, this is about the worst series of days I've run into in a long time, but hopefully it will start becoming better someday. For now, we will hang in there and do the hard work required for all this stuff. And wait a minute, I wonder if I can... No. I'll just write it down. Because some of these actually showed me that there wasn't going to be a problem. Seriously and Seriously 2 did not get replaced instead. Go away, spammer. You're the last thing I need right now. So that's Brass Rider. Bright Ambience 3, Dub Center, Head is dim, Evertrim, Galactic. You know what? I can do this on my own time. I'm going to have to keep picking away at this for days. But for now, I have a lot of fixing up to do after a search and replace that did a whole bunch of damage. And I'm not going to make you sit there through all of that. Instead, I'll just have to do it. I'll see you someday. I'm going to be in the middle of fixing this for a long, long, long time. And, but I should still be able to make cabs for Sunday. So I'll give you folks cabs and I'll demo it by plugging the guitar into the API so that it actually sounds good. And then you can have that. And in the meantime, I'll still be working on all of this. So on that note, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.